Which humans have helped you?
See, that's a really lovely ring you have there on your tapping finger.
You have a contempt for apes, Burke. You'll change your mind before you're finished.
I have no contempt for apes, nor for any other thinking animal on this planet.
Then be sensible. Be sensible. Answer my question. Which humans have helped you?
And welcome to Ape Nation, your number one source for all things Planet of the Apes on YouTube. My name is Josh, and today I am back once again to give my review of the short-lived 1974 TV series Planet of the Apes with episode 10. If you like what I do here and want to share your support, be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. For those who don't know, this is an ongoing series of reviews that is following every single episode of the TV show, all leading up to a full series review later this year that will culminate with the 50-year anniversary. If you haven't seen my reviews of the previous episodes, you can check all of them out right here. And for those who want to follow along with my reviews, or you're just interested in watching the show by yourself, I've put a link down in the description where you can watch the show totally free. And as always, for those who haven't seen the show before and want to hear my thoughts but don't want to be spoiled just yet, I'm going to start the review with just my general spoiler-free thoughts up top before going a little bit farther into the episode and giving all my more fleshed out and detailed thoughts. So if you want to know what I think of the episode but don't want to be spoiled, you can watch the first part of the video, click away, go watch the episode for yourself, and then come back to hear the rest of what I have to say about it. So with all that said, let's dive into Planet of the Apes, episode 10, The Investigation. When Burke finds himself captured by Urko's soldiers, Galen and Virdon seek help from Galen's parents in helping him escape. While being held hostage, Burke is forced to face two options from his captors: be killed or brainwashed. So as always, kicking things off with my general thoughts on this episode. This was a really intense and very memorable episode to me, from pretty much start to finish. I think it grabbed me from the opening scene when Burke gets kidnapped, setting things off into motion, and it spirals into chaos by the end. It has a really great sense of pacing. There's some really and also surprisingly intense filmmaking in multiple moments. The interrogation sequences throughout, as well as the action and stuff that I'll get more into that's going on throughout the end of the episode, I thought was really well done. And the interrogation stuff specifically, the way the camera is used and the way sound is used and the way music is used in those moments, I thought was surprisingly incredible, kind of. And I also thought that this episode has what I think is probably the best acting that has been seen in the show so far from multiple people, specifically Mark Leonard and James Naughton, as well as, of course, Roddy McDowell. And also Beverly Garland, who plays a newly introduced character named Wanda, I thought was fantastic in this episode and honestly steals the show when it comes to acting throughout this entire thing. I also just thought it had a really good story that was even more well executed. I just really enjoyed everything they were doing here. I hope the show can sustain this level of momentum. I really liked the last episode. I liked the last few episodes, in fact, and I think overall they've been doing a great job at continuously just making a solid, really entertaining show that continues to give me more of what I love about these characters and tell at least somewhat interesting stories, some better than others, and to a degree continue to further this journey that we're all going on a little bit inch by inch every once in a while. And so I really like this episode a lot. I think that again has a great story, some really memorable moments, tons of stuff to enjoy, and now I want to get a little bit further into what it is that I enjoyed so much about this episode. So to start, I think this is the first episode in a while that has really moved the main story forward, or at least whatever the loose main story is. It feels like the walls are starting to close in on our main characters here. It really feels like Galen and Burke and Virdon are backed into a corner in this episode for the first time in a very long time, and I really appreciated that. I thought it did well for our characters. I thought it did well for where we are at this point in the season. I also, like I mentioned up top, thought the acting was stellar this episode. I think Mark Leonard as Urko is the best he's ever been. He also gets the most time to actually put on a great performance here. I think this is the most time we've ever gotten to spend with Urko so far in this show. I loved what they did with him here. And then, like I also mentioned, the actress who plays Wanda, Beverly Garland, I thought was fantastic. As a character, I think she's a little bit too one note, but it worked because of how great of a performance that she's giving. And she kind kind of comes off almost like an evil version of Zira from the movies, and she does a really great job at making you hate her. You are scared of her in a way, and at first you're just not really sure what to think of her, but she's just so persistent in what she's doing to Burke during those interrogation scenes, and it really is eerie after a while. And speaking of eerie, I think those interrogation hypnotism scenes are incredibly unnerving, and I think they're really well done with the camera work that's used. That's haunting, and it's also really haunting is the music and the sound design during those scenes. I was really surprised at how not just cinematic but tension filled they were, and how well they managed to pull off that almost horror feel that they were going for, and it really surprised me. It really, I think, affected me the way it was supposed to, so I think they all did a great job in that regard. And then, as always, speaking more about acting, when it comes to the hero side of things, Roddy McDowall, of course, is brilliant in this episode, and he gets to show his range off once again. I think the moment of him pretending to be a female ape was really, really funny, and he also just does a really great job at playing that kind of goofier side of the character, while also having those intense and more dramatic moments throughout the episode. And then also on the hero side is James Naughton as Burke. I think this is the best we've ever seen of him. I think he's really intense throughout this episode, especially in those interrogation scenes, and he's really emotional and he's really dramatic when he needs to be, and he pulls it off so well. I also really loved meeting Galen's parents in this episode. I thought both the actors did a really good job, and both characters are fun and likable in their own ways. I think the mother a bit more so. Obviously, she's a lot more of a warm presence than Galen's father, who eventually kind of climbs that hurdle later in the episode and opens up a bit more. But I think Galen's mother, of course, is much more open from the start, and I think the actress in particular that plays his mother is really great. I mean, I love that little arc that they go on with Galen and his father, and it also tackles issues of prejudices and differing values and morals between generations, and specifically between children and their parents, and how to have those difficult conversations. I think it delves into that a little bit, and I really appreciated that. It was something a bit new. It was something that's very relatable. It's something that I think every generation can relate to and can deal with, and I think that was something that the episode handled in a way that didn't feel tacked on. It felt like it was a part of the characters. It felt like it built out part of who Galen was, and actually boosted just how good-hearted Galen is as a character. So I really enjoyed the way that it handled those themes. And then on the technical side of things, I think the music in this episode is the best it's ever been to date as well. I think it's really effective in some key scenes, again, specifically those interrogation scenes, but also towards the last 15 or so minutes of the episode during the entire hospital escape scene. There's some really haunting and really eerie music that we get to hear here, and also, again, for the first time in a while, some music that sounds very much like it's a callback to the Jerry Goldsmith themes from the 1968 movie. And then also more on a technical side, the action and the way the camera is used and the editing and the pacing of the action sequences, and specifically, again, that hospital escape scene is really well done. I think it's really fun, but it's also really intense. And I also love how the action in this show has been growing a bit more and more in terms of stakes and intensity. And I think this is some of the best that there's been so far, because I really, really felt it in this episode. As for a couple of the things that I wasn't crazy about here, there are two main issues I had in this episode. They weren't big things, but they were things that did stick out. The first one is something I've just mentioned multiple times now at this point, but once again, Virdon is just being underused, despite the fact that, again, he's given an opportunity to be used as a much more prominent character. He's in the episode quite a bit, but he doesn't really get to do much, and it's getting to a point where he's now starting to feel essentially like a side character in a show where he was initially presented as one of the main ones. And so I don't really get why he isn't being given anything to do aside from just have a couple lines of dialogue and occasionally offer some advice here and there, or offer some help towards other characters here and there. He hasn't really gotten to do all that much or be explored all that much. And then also there's a moment where we get something that feels like a flashback with Burke. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a flashback or it was supposed to be some kind of dream sequence that's caused by the hypnotism going on, but whatever it was, I think it was an interesting idea. However, the execution of it didn't really work for me. I think it felt out of place and ultimately didn't really achieve anything in terms of developing Burke as a character or moving that exact scene forward in any way. So I don't really understand what the point of it was, and it just tonally was kind of weird to me. That being said, I still really loved this episode. I think everything else that it did really, really well. I had a great time watching it. Like I said, the intensity is at an all-time high here. The acting's at an all-time high. The story is some of the best that they've had going on in the last few episodes, and overall, just like some of the last few episodes, it continuously just got me more excited to press play on the next episode. But I want to know what you guys have to say about this episode. Were you as big of a fan of it as I am? Is it one of your favorites? Did you like the interrogation stuff as much as I did? Do you think the action is as good as I'm saying it is? Do you think the acting is as good as I'm saying it is? I want to know all of your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. This is a great episode, probably in the top 2 or 3 for me. but we'll see how it all ranks out when I'm finished with the full season, which is going to be very, very soon because we only have a few episodes left. But until we get to some of those next few episodes, thank you so much for checking out today's video here on Ape Nation. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. I'll catch you in the next one, so until then, goodbye.